Yo, welcome everybody. This is very exciting to me and my partner Chris, my co-worker, my
What's going on,
legendary
everybody?
friend. I'm Aiden Ferris,
Chris DeMarsico.
and we're starting up a new podcast called The War Room. It's basically going to be all sports talks. I mean, Chris and I have been friends since middle school, and we've always talked about doing something like this because all we do is talk sports. It's literally our one passion.
Talking
You
ball, that's
know,
all we do.
yeah, all we do is we debate, we hash it out, we love each other still, and it's a great time. We're gonna have lots of guests on this show, a lot of our hometown friends, maybe we get some family members or whatever's gonna happen. Um, I've recorded podcasts in the past, but Chris reached out to me. I was like, this is the guy I needed to, get a little fire going in, our passion for sports. So, Chris, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Aiden? Happy to get this thing up and running. Ready to talk football. We're in the middle of a chaotic
Yep.
season, just like
Mm-hmm.
always. Week
That's
13.
right.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Hope you had a nice little break with your family, and I'm ready to talk football.
Yeah, watched the Giants game, so it wasn't exactly the nicest part of the Thanksgiving, but I had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you did too.
I mean, honestly, it was the best outcome for you guys. There's no need to pick up one of those
Yeah,
meaningless
we
culture
keep
wins.
we
These guys are all going to get fired, or they should.
yeah.
So we don't need any culture wins,
Yeah, we'll get
honestly.
into it later. So, Chris, you
Yeah,
want
we'll
to
get into that.
start off with our first topic? We're gonna go into Thanksgiving games, right, Chris?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about it. So we had Lions Bears. Lions 0-7 in their last seven Thanksgiving games. Barely snuck out a win against the Bears, who consequently fired Matt Eberflus. Again, we'll get into that a little bit. But
Yeah.
Lions started out hot, let the Bears hang around a little bit, and then some
Yep.
very questionable clock management with Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus. No one wanted to call a timeout, and they just burned
Yeah.
about 25 seconds. Not really sure what to make of it, but Lions are 11-1, one seed in the NFC. You know, keep it up. They're gonna have a home field advantage throughout, which I think is big for them because you don't want Jared Goff to have to go to say Philly and play in the cold, something like
Yeah.
that. I don't think that's a good matchup for them.
No, I agree. I think if I look at this game, if I look at it from a player standpoint, I strongly believe the Bears were pretty level with
Yeah,
playing and maybe even slightly outplayed the Lions yesterday. And it really was not on them, but their coaching management. I think that's really why they lost the game. And it wasn't like Detroit did anything better in terms of coaching. They had plenty of chances, the Bears, to put points on the board and put themselves in position to get points on the board, and they just did not execute, especially those last 30 seconds. It's all over social media right now. Everybody's, letting their own opinions out on it. Eberflus, is I don't know what he's doing standing on the sideline just staring, I mean, I don't know what he's
yeah,
going through, what his thought process is. You see Caleb get sacked there and the clock's running with 30 seconds. And I see reports come out. Caleb in his post-game interview was talking about how he didn't get to play till like 20 seconds past or something like that. And he looked up at the clock and there was 12 seconds left or something like that, 10 seconds. And so he decides to change up the play in those like 2 or 3 seconds to just shoot a Hail Mary because the play call he got was designed to uh, go for a field goal and get extra 5, 6 yards to put him in field goal shot. But he knew there wasn't enough time. And you do have that last time out, and quite frankly, maybe Caleb could have called it, and you got to give him a little bit of a leeway because he is a rookie and he's had one heck of a game, honestly, in my opinion. And I'm just looking over like, what is going on in Eberflus's head?
yeah. I I couldn't tell you, but I think it's even worse that he doubled down and tripled down on it last night and this morning and
Oh
got
yeah,
fired 2 hours later. I think he got what was coming to him. It's one thing to make bad decisions. It's another thing to stick up for it when everyone knows you're wrong. But you know
yeah,
what? If you're a Bears fan, it's a tough season. Caleb looks solid, getting better these last
yeah,
couple weeks. Hopefully, you get a real
absolutely,
coach in there to harness that talent because it would be a shame if they're not able to build around him because he's a very capable quarterback. I think he has a lot
yeah,
of traits. Pocket presence really isn't there yet, but we knew that was an issue coming out of college. They can get him a
for
real
sure.
coach, just help with his awareness in that internal clock as a quarterback. But we'll get into the Bears a little bit later. Taking a look at the next game on the slate, we had Aedan's New York Giants taking on
Hmm.
Dallas Cowboys, and it was certainly a game. That's all I have to say, honestly. 27-20. I think the score is a lot closer than that game appeared to be.
Yeah,
Honestly, the Giants, people want to say they didn't quit on Dable or whatever. I mean, frankly, that team just stinks, and I think they need to blow it up. They don't really have a ton of elite playmakers on either side of the ball, and you just lost Dexter Lawrence for the year. That hurts because he was definitely in the running for Depoy. Hope he gets
yeah.
healthy, comes back next year. I saw Kayvon came back, but I didn't really hear his number
Name be
called too
called.
much.
No,
Yeah,
no.
and they made an effort to get Neighbors the ball, but there's only so much you could do. Tracy, solid game. Theo Johnson looked all right. I will say the rookies on the Giants do look good. So hopefully for the next regime coming in, there's something to build, but I don't know. It's tough. The best thing for the Giants, just keep losing. It's no one wants to lose, but you need a draft pick. I know the players aren't going to tank, and no one's going to admit to it, but you've
Right.
seen it with the Giants and Jets the last 10 years. You win a couple games down the stretch, you don't get the quarterback, and that's why we are the way that
Hmm.
we are. And then if you're
No.
Dallas,
Yeah.
you're 5-7, picked up a win against division, nothing to be impressed about, but the bottom of the NFC is a little shaky. They could maybe rattle off a couple wins. I'm not counting on it, but still alive for the time being. They got their own problems. I think winning X amount of games, finishing around 500, and they keep McCarthy would be worst case scenario. I think it
That'd
would be better to,
be awful. I mean, from a
yeah, I
Giants
think it would be
standpoint,
better to just lose and fire him.
from a Giants fan standpoint, I'm like, you know what? McCarthy got a couple solid wins at the end of the year. Didn't have his quarterback. Keep him. He's doing great things,
You want
sarcastically.
him, but
But yeah,
yeah,
obviously. But going back to what you said about the Giants, right? You said, oh, some of the rookies look good. This is the first time I think we're able to say that under Shane, right? It's like, oh,
yeah,
some of the rookies look solid. Rookies look solid. Like Drew Phillips is a solid, like corner two, corner three, maybe. I love that in him. He's
yeah,
that guy is one of the few guys on my team that is straight up giving 1,000% effort the entire game, right? I see that guy going out for whatever he can, and you see a guy like Banks, who they drafted first round a couple years ago, fall off greatly.
yeah,
Fall off greatly. He
yeah,
cannot compete with not even receiver ones. We've seen him get burned by these wide receiver two, threes. He just does. He's lazy. He's not playing well. There's no fire in the Giants anymore. And
yeah,
I was thinking when I saw the game, I'm like, oh, Drew Lock is going out there playing for himself. He's not playing for the Giants. He's playing to prove that I should have been started over Tommy DeVito last week. I should have been given a chance. And he didn't have an awful game considering the Giants' circumstances. I look at the line. The line is abysmal, regardless of who you have out there, right? And that goes
yeah.
back to drafting as well, right? You draft
Hmm.
John Michael Schmitz, who's quote unquote the best center in the draft in his year. I mean, he was like a second round pick, but he's the best center in his draft. He hasn't really panned out phenomenally. I'd
He's
say
been a
he's
little
good at
underwhelming.
best. Yeah, I mean, Evan
Hmm.
Neal is just one of the another. He's like Eric Flowers 2.0, and it's
Yeah.
just
He's
it's a big
unplayable.
circle for me, right? And
Yeah.
I think I talked to you a little bit about this off camera or not off camera, off mic or whatever. I've talked to my family about this. It's just, you let's say you go and get a quarterback, right, in Shador or Cam Ward. What will it do for you, really? Like I would love a guy like Travis Hunter, because it's like you're
Hmm.
gonna you're gonna bring in a QB, right, who's big time like Cam or especially like Shador with all the cameras around him. And if he doesn't do well, like he just gets showered with, hate and judgment, and it's like it's not really his fault though. I
Yeah.
can't blame him.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
mean,
I
the New
think
York
I
market
think
is brutal.
yeah, I think losing this game was nice. I think just go in losing the rest of the games. It's plain and simple.
I don't, we,
Malik is someone I want to talk about with you because what did you think about his comments
yeah,
before I go?
yeah. Well, I just want to preface this by saying, obviously, it's going to be looked at like wanting to lose the games is a loser mentality, but think it's
Yeah,
very different from a fan's perspective and from a player's perspective. We're not the
yeah,
ones out there playing. We spend a lot of time watching, so it's easy for us to say that lose these games. Players are never going to do that. Obviously, for the long
right.
term outcome, better. You saw what happened a couple years ago. The Texans. Um, sorry, irrelevant because they actually won, screwed up their pick, and then got CJ Stroud. I was going to try to make a point that they kept losing and got Stroud.
Oh,
Irrelevant. I'm
that's all
moving
right.
on. Um, yeah, neighbors. I sent you
Still
the
got
quote
him.
yesterday. I was like, we got to talk about this on the pod. He said,
Yeah,
I don't care about drops. I mean, it's just part of football. I don't care if I drop the ball 6 times. Keep throwing me the ball. I think
right.
my takeaway is they have a culture problem. That you got it's similar to what's going on with the Jets. We can talk about that another day, but I think you got 53 guys in there. You don't have a team. They
Yeah,
just
it's a
they
great
don't
quote.
care. I mean, he
It's a
literally
great
just said,
quote.
"I don't care."
Yeah,
I've never seen a player say it, that they don't care about drops, which are detrimental to the team. But you know
yeah,
what? They got a problem. It seems like this regime is just a bunch of it's like a shell company right now, and these guys are dead men walking, and they know it.
yeah.
I think they
And
need to blow it up, honestly.
he's got that ego where he kind of, it reminds me a lot of Odell, right? Not just LSU receiver stud, but he's got that.
No, I understand.
Yeah, he's got that little bit of a fire, but like it's a fire where he's like, I want to win, but the only way to win is if you throw me the ball. If that makes sense to you, like he's got that ego
Yeah,
where like he said last week with the Buccaneers, he's like, "Oh, we were down 30-0, and I just started getting the ball. What do you want me to do?" He's blaming everybody
yeah,
else, saying like, they're trying to find other ways to win because he's not. There's no such thing as a durable wide receiver where you give them target them 15, 20 times a game, and you win every single week. I understand Cooper Cup had a phenomenal season when they won the Super Bowl, but look where he is
mhm,
now. He's getting injured every single year, right? Because the
yeah,
Rams literally like squeeze them like a lemon, right? And they're doing it with Puka now too, who's super young, right? It can't happen where you feed a guy 15 or throw the ball 15 to 20 times a game to the same guy. That's your whole offense, you know?
yeah. It's also just like it's just different because what other aerial threats do the Giants have? You're not going to
Right.
sell me on Jalen Hyatt. I mean, a
Mm,
lot of the fans were really happy when they got him. Thought he would be a burn over the top guy. I mean, he hasn't really had a quarterback to throw, but I think we're in year two, and does he even have an NFL touchdown yet? I'm not sure. He might, but he can't have many.
yeah, he's got
And
like one.
they spent a second round pick on Wandale instead of a guy like George Pickens. Wandale's a nice gadget player, but a second round pick is a serious investment on a player. It's not like
Yeah,
throwing a dart on a fifth round pick. It's still a top 50 pick. You're looking for very solid starters there. And
yeah,
while we're
for
on
sure.
this, I have Joe Sheen's first three picks up from all his drafts. And if we want to
Go
talk about
ahead.
why the Giants are the way that they are, this is it. So his first pick, Kayvon, he's
Yeah.
okay, but a top
If
10 pick,
Kayvon, if
you're looking
Kayvon,
for Micah Parsons with a pick like that, or
yeah,
Myles
but if
Garrett, or
Kayvon
TJ
doesn't
Watt.
have, if Kayvon doesn't have the sacks he had, he's got nothing else.
Yeah,
And he doesn't,
again,
and
I
he,
don't
but he
watch a
doesn't
lot of
even have that
Giants
much
football,
sacks.
but he doesn't get a lot of sacks recently,
He
and I
doesn't.
don't think
That's what I'm
he plays
saying.
the run that well and doesn't cause a
Yeah.
lot of turnovers.
Yeah.
So that's a heavy, and then obviously followed that up with Evan Neal, which it's hard to say that they should have never drafted him because he was a very highly touted tackle coming out of Alabama,
Yeah.
but he stinks, and it's just like I think the Giants in that draft were so depleted of talent that they were kind of
Just taking best
reaching
guy
to plug
available.
holes. I heard someone on the fan say that Sean had admitted that they were just so depleted of talent that he kind of diverted from his draft plan, and now you see the success
Hmm.
he had this year, where he kind of realized his mistakes, which is good because you like to see growth, but might be too late for him. They
Yeah.
followed that pick up with Wandale, who was again a nice gadget, but a second round pick on a gadget slot receiver, unless he's um Jaden Reed with
Yeah.
the skill set that he has,
It's
it's not a good pick. And he
not the same.
also another guy that hasn't stayed healthy. And then Josh Esvedue, I don't know who that is. Call me a casual, but don't think I've ever heard his name called in any significant
I'm
matter.
trying to remember. I'll
Let's see
look it
what
up as we keep
position Josh
talking.
Esvedue plays.
Oh, Ezadu was
An offensive
a
lineman, it looks
yeah.
like.
I think
Yeah,
he has been a backup the entire time. I don't think he's ever. Oh no, he
yeah,
started 2 games with us maybe last year because of injuries. He
yeah.
was if I'm Carolina, I remember he's from North Carolina. Um,
Mhm.
just another like throw in if I have an injury kind of guy. That's literally what he was, and I don't want to offend him
Yeah.
anyway and be like that brutal. But it's
No, I
just
mean,
the way Shane was drafting, like you said, is like he looked at the second round and was like, "Yeah, let me just get a couple guys that could be fill-ins." I'm like, "No, you're looking for starters, like you said."
Yeah, you need to
So
find impact players. And then the following year, we had Deontay Banks, who started off pretty strong, but
yeah,
he really fell
I
off a
agree.
cliff towards the end of his rookie year, I thought. And this year has been really bad, honestly.
Mm,
Like borderline, they go after him. That's how bad he's been.
yeah,
And then John Michael Schmitz, like you said, who was again like I can't really fault Shane there because you had a hole at center, but you had zero
yeah,
centers on the roster.
I
So
agree.
you were
You had to take
basically
whoever's there.
you had to take him, and the Jets had taken Tippmann earlier in the draft, so there was a little toss up I remember between which one was going to be better. I think it
Yep.
looks safe to say Tippmann is definitely better, and the Giants got Schmitz, who he's been fine, but again, a second round pick. You're looking for a little more,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
Jalen Hyatt
Pro
in the
Bowler.
third round out of Tennessee was supposed to be this big burn the top off your defense. Now they don't have a quarterback to get on the ball, but I don't think his route tree has really developed into anything special.
Yeah.
So
The whole
another,
point of Hyatt, sorry, but the whole point of Hyatt was
no,
kind of
you're
like
good.
we could trade Slayton for picks, and Hyatt could kind of low key take that little position of his,
And Slayton is
you
still
know,
here year after
and he's
year.
still there. And the thing about Slayton is he's not gonna get any more value really, right? If we want to
Yeah,
trade him in the offseason, if he's not gonna get
yeah.
any more value. So that was a big missed opportunity by Shane as well. But continue, sorry.
Yeah. And then here this past year, this has been a good draft. I'll give him that.
Yeah,
Neighbors, great pick. Newman, Phillips, you picked up Tracy later in the draft. Theo
yeah,
Johnson, those are
yeah,
good starters. But the first 2 years, that's 7 picks in the top 100, and you have a couple of mid starters and some guys who aren't going to be here for a second contract. And then on top of
yeah,
that, the Daniel Jones Saquon dilemma. I mean, we could go into a whole other episode about that, but
yeah.
hindsight's
We probably
2020.
will.
That's Yeah, we probably will, but, you wanna move on to just cover the last game
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what
Last
went on
game we
today?
just off there. Go for it.
So, we had Packers, Dolphins 30-17, nice snowy game in Lambeau. Dolphins
Yep.
cannot beat the allegations that they can't play in cold.
They can't.
Been
They can't. Tua
downhill.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been downhill since McDaniel wore the shirt that said, quote, he said, "Make it colder," or something like that, and
Yeah.
just did not age well. I think the Dolphins'
Hmm.
playoff hopes just took a serious dagger. They're 5-7. If they had been there, showed up 6-6, they totally would have been in the thick of it. But they're 2 games
Yep.
behind Denver for that last spot. Green Bay's firing on all cylinders. Jacobs is a
Yep.
beast. They're 9-3, and they're in tied for second or
I love
third
the
because the
Packers. I
NFC
love the
North is a
Packers.
gauntlet. I like the
Yeah.
Packers a lot too. I actually picked them last year. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, he's saying it now," but I picked them last year to beat Dallas in the playoffs, and I got a lot
Mm,
of heat for that from some of my family and friends. But
yeah.
I never think Dallas is good, and Green Bay
Yeah.
just looks solid all
They're
around.
a really
Honestly,
young team. I like LaFleur. I like what
very
he's
young
like.
team.
Hey, Chris, you ready for this? You ready for this stat?
I hear
Tua
it.
has yet to win an NFL game below 45 degrees in his entire career.
It's just
Is
it's
yet to win,
crazy.
right? And I'm like, maybe there is, the he played at Bama his all 4 years. He's what isn't he Hawaiian, right? He grew up in warm weather. I don't think he ever played in cold weather
Yeah,
growing
he
up.
never. I
But
don't
like,
think he ever played in cold
I
games.
genuinely believe, just growing up without cold weather games, he's just not used to it. His muscles tighten up or something. There's got to be some
He
other
also just
factor
doesn't
to
have a
it.
lot of, like, arm strength to cut through that crisp
Well,
air,
yeah,
and
that
the
too.
field gets
I agree.
hard, and you look at
Yeah.
Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming, no one
Oh
had any
yeah, that
concerns about
dude.
whether he'd be able
Yeah,
to rip it up in Buffalo because
yeah.
know,
He was
played up
made for
there
those kind of games. It was
in the
awesome.
Midwest in the freezing cold. Yeah, like, Buffalo, perfect match, but getting a little
Yeah.
off topic. Yeah, Green Bay 9-3. Dolphins 5-7. Now today we had an interesting game, a typical Chiefs game with some black magic and some help from
Hmm.
the officials. The Chiefs
I
moved to
love it.
11-1, beating the Raiders. Raiders fall to 2-10 by a final score of 19-17. I'll let you jump in here, but it looks like the Raiders and Giants are going to be going neck and neck for that first
Heck
pick
yeah,
come April.
baby. Well, looking at the game first, because you and I were just talking about the missed field goals, which were absolutely insane.
And some questionable
Really,
calls to go for those field goals
yeah,
too,
I
but
agree. I agree. But if you look at the game, similar to the Bears Lions, did the Raiders kind of outplay them a little bit? I think so. There was definitely aspects in this game where the
well,
Raiders outplayed the Chiefs a tiny bit.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying
I think
entirely overall, but
they had some really good drives and they couldn't capitalize. I mean, they missed 3 field goals. They turned it over on downs around the 30-yard line of Kansas City, and then obviously that weird fumble, illegal formation,
Yep.
false start, whatever that was. But they were in field goal range, probably about to win the game because I know Carlson missed 3 50-yard field goals, but that was going to be a little shorter, and he's a very good kicker.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
The Chiefs are 11-1, and they really have yet to impress anyone. Obviously, winning close
Yeah.
games in the NFL is a big deal. It's why they've been able to win those Super Bowls because those games have been close, and they've been down a lot in the fourth quarter. But
Look,
it's confusing.
when yeah, I mean, you look at who the Chiefs are playing for their, 9 straight game win streak or whatever. They were all right. They weren't dominating teams like the Lions, and I'm not saying you have to do that to show you're a good team, but
Yeah.
then you go into Buffalo, right?
Hmm.
Um, eh, Look what Buffalo was doing. Josh Allen wants it badly because he knows Mahomes has been terrorizing him. And there's a lot of great quarterbacks now in the AFC. I strongly believe that this year, at least for the playoffs, is really up for grabs. It's like it's a
I
I could
agree.
there's a good amount of teams that could really come out of the AFC.
Yeah, and we thought that last year too. And Kansas City
Yeah,
had to go on the road twice. They had to go to
right,
Buffalo and they had to go to Baltimore, and they took care of business because
right.
they've been there, done that. Mahomes has played in the biggest games. They have the best coach in the NFL still.
Yeah,
I
and
I
see
think their
that's
defense
why
is
it's
better than
like
it has been too this year. So
yeah.
I would be hard pressed to pick against the Chiefs coming out of the
Right.
AFC,
It's
honestly.
hard. It's really hard to take them out every time. It's as long as Mahomes has a spot in there, you don't know what he's going to do. He could turn it on for any game, anytime, anywhere.
Well, it's
But yeah,
just interesting because no, keep going.
no,
Sorry.
no, 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 no. I That's all I had to say. That's all I had to say.
It's just interesting this year's Chiefs because they don't have prime Kelsey. He doesn't play as much
Mm-mm.
because he's getting older. So that maybe they're saving him for the playoffs and they're going to unleash him. But
Yeah.
they don't have Tyreek Hill where you throw him 10 targets. You got Worthy, Watson, Kelsey. Now you got D Hop, Juju. Um, you got Noah Brown. You've got
They're
they got
utilizing a
Kareem
lot of their
Hunt,
tight ends.
Pacheco.
Yeah.
Noah Gray's looks solid. I just they have a lot of weapons. Pacheco was out for 10 weeks. They lost
Yeah.
one game. Now he's back and they have a really good defense. They can run the rock. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a tough out in the
Like
playoffs. And
this is a Chiefs team where Mahomes isn't really needed unless he's called upon, if that makes
he doesn't
sense.
have to be Superman every play.
Right.
Like everyone wants to give him crap for being a game manager, but they haven't needed it yet,
Right.
honestly. They
But they
haven't
didn't really
gotten
need it
into
yet.
those
They didn't really need it
games.
yet last year. They didn't really need it last year either. I think it's a similar team in that sense of like maybe when they got to the playoffs, he was relied more a lot. But it's like they might do the same thing this year, right? And it's all the Chiefs will lose to the Bills. The Ravens could compete this year. I'm like, they can. I think they'll whoever they play will be insanely close games, but you can't count them out
Yeah.
ever. And I
No, you
hate saying
can't.
that because I would love to see some of these guys win, like Josh and Lamar, because they really deserve it.
Lamar's probably
You
going to win
know?
his third MVP more than
Yeah,
Mahomes this year, and
yeah,
that's just crazy considering where he came from,
yeah.
honestly. But
But
yeah, I mean,
going
we'll
on to the
see. They
draft,
got
yeah.
yeah.
If you want to go to the draft, the draft is really interesting because I know you're going to bring up, Raiders and Giants being up top.
Mhm.
No question, the Raiders are taking a QB here. I think, the question is who though. I know I hear rumors about Tom Brady having good connections with Dion and how Shador really wants to go to Vegas, and I'm sure you've heard that stuff
Yeah.
too, like with
Yeah,
Tom
I've
being
seen it.
connected to
And
the Raiders.
Shador's tweeting like, "Thank God" after every Raiders loss. I'll actually
Right.
check right now. I don't know if he's tweeted yet. I'll give you a live. I'll give you
Yeah,
a
he
live
probably
update. Let me see
has.
what I can
Yeah,
find.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has. But when if Shador goes to Vegas,
He
he's got
has
an
not
option with
tweeted yet. He has not
interesting,
tweeted yet. So we'll be on
interesting,
watch for that.
interesting. Right, but it's like okay, if I'm the Raiders, is Alec Pierce still your coach after the end of this year? You bring
Antonio,
in a new
Antonio
guy.
Pierce.
Oh, Antonio Pierce. Sorry, Alec Pierce is the
Yeah.
receiver for the Colts. Oh my lord,
No, I think they have to get a real guy.
Antonio
Pierce, I like the culture, but I don't think he offers anything as a head coach. I'm not sure who they would get. Maybe
Chris.
Tom. I don't know anything, but maybe
Chris.
Tom wants to bring Bill
Oh,
in.
oh, I was gonna say that or Dion. I was gonna say bring
Uh,
Dion in.
I don't know.
And just
Dion's got a
draft his
really good
son.
deal,
You don't
and
think so?
I don't think Dion's style of coaching translates
To the
to
rate
grown
to
men.
NFL?
To grown
Yeah,
men,
I guess.
he's like we could talk about it on a future pod. I just see
Yeah.
the way that he talks to them like, after they
More
lost
like a
their last
teacher.
game. He's more like a mentor, and
Yeah.
he doesn't talk down on them, but he talks to them as if they're boys, and he's getting them ready to
Right.
go on to the NFL. I just that doesn't work. We've seen like Saban come over. We saw Urban Meyer come over. It doesn't work
Doing
always.
bad.
Harbaugh's
Yeah.
one of the only guys who's been able to go back and forth and win
Yeah.
wherever he's been.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
brought that up because I'm like, I keep seeing all these things about, oh, Shador's going to want wherever Dion goes and wherever, or if Dion's going to want specific things for these two guys and how he has a lot of influence on where these guys go. And let's just say Shador goes to Vegas because obviously he wants it. And Giants are ahead of the Raiders still, right? They still have number one, or is it Raiders number one now?
no, I think the Giants are number one because the Raiders
Giants are
have a
number one still.
very hard strength of schedule, meaning they would fall further in the
Right.
draft
Yeah, yeah,
because they're
yeah.
technically
So Raiders
losing
are
the
two
better
then.
teams. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say the
Right.
Giants take Cam Ward, right? And
Yeah.
Shador goes to the Raiders. I don't know how I feel honestly. I would. It's so tough when a draft like this comes around where it's like two top guys. We've seen it like Jameis Winston and Mariota when they got drafted,
Mm.
or just any
Yeah.
any QB carousel, QB rivalry with the NFL draft. It just makes me scared because when there's so many options, or when there's two guys, it's like, I swear if we take the wrong one, But it's like
Yeah.
I don't think there's a right one to take for me because I don't
No,
see
this
the
isn't a
Giants as they're
great.
not. This isn't great, but it's not just them. It's the Giants not being ready for a QB, if that makes sense.
No, I
You
hear
know what I'm
you.
trying
I
to say?
mean,
Like
I think it
like
would be in the best
find a
interest of
bridge
whoever gets
QB.
drafted. Just yeah, I was gonna
You
say
know? Yeah.
sit them for a year.
I will. I don't care how I use this word. I strongly hate starting rookie QBs. I really hate it because it's just look at the living proof of what happens when you sit your rookie QB and let him learn and develop. If you want to go into that, Chris, I was like, Mahomes, Love,
Yeah,
even Rodgers behind Favre. The Packers figured
he
out a
sat for
cycle,
3 years. He sat for
Yeah,
3 years behind Favre.
yeah, and a guy like
Lamar sat
Shador.
behind Flacco for a little bit
Yeah,
too.
there you go. And Lamar was the
Yeah,
32nd pick of that draft, and he was seen as, oh, we should play a running back. And he's now
yeah,
winning, probably on pace. He's probably likely to win his third MVP, or at least he's going to be up for it. And he's,
yeah.
taking the Ravens year in and year out to playoffs. But you have a guy like Shador and a guy like Cam Ward, where they're the face of the draft probably this year, and they're going to be expected, like Caleb last year with the Bears, they're expected to come in and quote unquote save the franchise or whatever. And it's just a lot
It's a
of pressure,
lot. It's a
regardless of
lot.
whose son you are with Shador, or regardless of the big stage you play on with Cam Ward. If you win a Heisman, whatever, it's a lot to expect out of someone. Bryce Young, I wouldn't blame Bryce Young because he's developing well right now, in my opinion. It's like,
And he looked
could
good.
you?
I
Yeah,
hope he pulls through.
I agree. I completely agree because I think he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback. He just needs time to develop it. But if you put him in there immediately and get him rocked and killed out there, he's going to put himself down more and just put himself in a hole. And it's hard to get out
Yeah,
of that hole. We've seen it time and time again. And you've seen it with the Jets. I've seen it with the Giants. If
yeah,
you want to go into that,
yeah. I mean, the Jets are. It seems like that's where rookie quarterbacks come to die. I mean, I don't want to
yeah,
say Geno Smith because I think that's just an LOL Jets thing, but because I was
yeah,
about 10 years, 8 years between starts. But Sam Darnold, I never thought he was the main issue with those teams. Those teams were awful, and they were coached by Adam Gase, and they barely had NFL talent on them.
yeah,
And I was of the opinion that we should have traded the 2021 second overall pick for, a couple first rounders, move down, draft a
oh
guy
for
like
sure.
Devonta Smith, and keep Sam
Mm,
Darnold. We're gonna get into that on another pod. I have some
yeah,
thoughts. I could probably ramble about that for an hour, but
yeah,
and then we took Zach Wilson. He was benched
hmm
in his second year after like 18 starts, maybe even less.
yeah,
He was benched, and he was never the same.
right,
God bless him. I hope he figures it out in Denver. Maybe he'll learn from Sean Payton and take the Sam Darnold route and become a little bit of
yeah.
a a nomad, go around team to team, and someone gets hurt, you jump in. Like Sam Darnold just earned himself a pretty solid payday from some team this
For
offseason. Maybe
sure.
it's the
See,
Jets. We'll
that's
get into that, but
maybe
he's going to get
right,
paid because he's 9-2 and he's playing really good football right now.
right. Regardless of who's on
Gino
that
got
team,
paid
he's
too.
making great decisions. He's making great decisions too. It's
I think
like
it
it's
just
one
speaks to how
thing.
important the coaching is too.
Yes, I agree because we saw it with Darnold. We saw it with Baker, right? I mean, Baker learned from a
Yes,
lot of
Baker's a good
different guys
example.
once he left Cleveland. I'm not saying like so he went to Carolina, didn't work out too well there, but the coaching staff wasn't great either. He went to the Rams, and although he was there for a short time, I'm sure a little bit like Sean McVay had a little bit of impact on Baker's success lately,
I agree.
right? And just
I agree.
teaching him a little bit, right? And going
I agree.
to getting a decent contract now for to go replace Tom Brady as the Buccaneers probably franchise quarterback, right? And
Yeah.
he's doing well. He's doing well, regardless of Mike Evans is there, Chris Godwin's there. It's the decision making that guys like Sam Darnold and Baker are doing now, and you see them as we saw them as busts in the first round. But is it really busts, or did their teams fail them?
The teams definitely failed them, and
Yeah,
quarterbacks don't get any development coming out of college at this point. I think the coaching is really bad. They don't really run pro style offenses. And then essentially what's going on is you're having teams like the Jets and the Giants who are constantly picking in the top 10 and they're looking for the savior and the quick
yeah,
fix so that this
yeah,
new regime gets to keep their job because they know if they don't win by year three, they're going to be calling for their heads. And
yeah,
it's an endless cycle. Like, I, I think that when the Jets drafted Sam Darnold, they had Teddy Bridgewater and Josh McCown on the roster, right? So there was zero need to
yeah,
start Sam Darnold. They traded Teddy Bridgewater in the preseason without ever playing a snap in the regular season for them, and Josh McCown was the backup. So it's like
yeah.
you had two capable quarterbacks. You could have had a solid
Right.
bridge year,
Also,
build
good
the
semi like
culture.
kind of mentors too, like guys that could just help
Josh
him.
McCown is like his best friend. Josh
Yeah.
McCown's the offensive coordinator in Minnesota now, and it's no
Yes, that's
wonder
what I was gonna
that
say. He's
or he's the
helping him out
quarterback's coach
greatly.
or
Yeah,
something,
he's the
and it's no
QB
wonder
coach.
that Sam Darnold is having the best year of his career.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
just I hope to
You
God
see,
that the same thing doesn't happen with some of these quarterbacks like Caleb.
right?
I'm glad that the Bears fired Eberflus. I hope they get a real guy in there to help with the
Yeah.
development.
Well, like you said, like Darnold could go back to the Jets, and that's the kind of quarterback I would love for the Giants to get
Yeah,
for this year.
yeah.
I
I'm not
mean,
counting
as
on it,
much
but
as
that'd
I
be cool.
love, right? I know that would be cool if Darnold went back to the Jets, and you build up that you could use your first round pick on the lineman, maybe get the line going. You guys could have a solid team still, in my opinion, at least. If you
Yeah.
find the right coaching as well. But that like with the Giants, it's like I would love for Shador to come in and have a CJ Stroud season. But is it likely? Not really. And Chris, could talk about remember you talked about a couple days ago with me about CJ Stroud too, even starting as a rookie?
Yeah, I mean, he looked really good, obviously. They had a great year. He was offensive rookie of the year. They won a playoff
Yeah,
game. I think you're starting to see a little bit this year. Not that he was not all he's hyped up to be, but the media crowned him like, is CJ Stroud a top five quarterback in the NFL already
yeah,
after a handful of games? And they were playing a last place schedule last year,
yeah.
and he wasn't having to do anything crazy. And now, as a second year passer, he's expected to, their line stinks. I mean, I
Oh my
watched the
I mean,
Jets.
yeah,
The Jets sacked him 8 times, and he doesn't really pick up protections well. Diggs out for the year. Collins been in and out. Mixon's been really good for
well,
them, but
yeah.
he's not there yet to where he can fully
I
operate the
we
offense,
talked
I
about
think. I
this.
think we're seeing
Yeah,
some growing pains. They
right,
lost to the
exactly.
Titans
But
last week. I mean, that's unacceptable.
yes, that's awful. And I looked at that division before the season started, seeing Jacksonville struggles last year. I was like, this is an easy cakewalk for the Texans, in my opinion. I mean, maybe
And
if
they still
Anthony
should win it,
Richardson,
but it's
yeah, but it's like you said though, great. Their line, or not great, but their line stinks. You can't entirely blame Stroud for that. But you look at him before every like play snap, and he's not looking at anything. He's not trying to read anything. Not trying to call audibles, and you would normally expect that out of a guy who just had a phenomenal rookie year where he learns and develops his maybe his IQ of the game a little bit more. Because wasn't that the whole scouting report of him, how he couldn't even read the playbook or something like that
Yeah, like
coming
he
in?
did horribly on the Wonderlic test, which
Yeah,
is,
exactly.
I
You
wouldn't
know
put
what?
too much into that. Like, but people
Right,
obviously
but
it's
still,
I
it's
agree though. I
like,
don't think he has a full immersion in the offense, and I think that's why
yeah,
they look like they've taken a little bit of a step back, especially these last
right,
couple weeks.
right.
So
But yeah,
yeah,
I
you hope he
think I
continues to learn and take that leap.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a Giants fan, going back to the draft real quick, I would love Travis Hunter. Just
Yeah,
take him because I think that you
yeah,
could you could play him at corner and then get have a little section in your playbook for him at receiver. He could play both sides, dabble a little bit of both. He's a generational talent. Let's not sugarcoat anything else. And like you
it's
said,
just
like how
interesting. Yeah,
go for it. I mean, it's just
I was just gonna say it's just interesting because he's not the best receiver and he's not the best corner, but
no,
he's
he's not.
very good at
I,
both. I'd say
yeah,
Tetaroa McMillan's the receiver and Will Johnson is the corner,
yeah.
or probably number
No,
one at each. But you have a guy like Hunter that's kind of invaluable, who is
right.
looks to be above average at both.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you take that
Giants
guy,
are
you
also in
could
the mode of adding talent. Like that wouldn't be a
Yeah, you
bad
just have
pick in
to
my
add raw
opinion.
talent, like you said. Like when they took Evan Neal, I mean, he kind of drifted off from his drafting strategy, but a guy like Hunter is never going to come around again. Like you see Dion, and then the next guy's Hunter. Like there's
Yeah,
not many guys that play multiple positions at a high level. And people are saying, "Oh, it's the modern game. He can't do it." I'm sure people had doubts of Dion doing punt returning and playing receiver and all these things and playing corner all in the NFL, and he did it, and he did it well. It's still possible,
yeah,
but just like we said, takes the right coaching, takes the right mentality. I would love to have Travis and Malik on the same team. That'd be pretty nice.
yeah.
But
That'd be
I
interesting
would
to
love,
see how
yeah,
that works.
yeah. It's just as a Giants fan going into management, it's like Shane's got to go. He really has to. You hit the nail on the head with the draft picks, Chris. He had his
Yeah,
first semi-successful draft class finally. Um, but you know what the thing is I love Dable. I really do. I think he could be a great coach, maybe a great offensive coordinator or somewhere else. Because, I'm not saying that he's going to be gone, but if traditionally we've seen it many times where you fire a GM, you don't fire the head coach. The GM wants a new head coach, wants to pick their head coach, wants to pick their guy. So
yeah. Just I'm of the opinion that arranged marriages in the NFL don't really work. Where
yeah,
you keep the GM, you hire a new coach, and vice versa. It's just you got to
yeah,
get two guys on the same
yeah,
philosophy, same
yeah,
wavelength. So
yeah,
I think they should clean house. But
yeah.
the thing is, if you keep Brian Dable and Joe Sheen, you can't fire them after 1 year with
Right,
maybe a Shador. Like you have to give them a 2 year window because
right,
like then you're already gonna have this guy learning potentially two new playbooks in a year. Like that's just not
right. That's what
setting them
Baker
up
went
for
through, and that's what
success.
Baker went through. Baker went through like
Baker
three
had a
different
new
offensive
offensive coordinator
coordinators. He had a
like
new
every
offensive,
year,
yeah.
dude.
He didn't know how
I
to
mean, it's
develop. But you know what I'm seeing on social media, Chris? I'm seeing all these other podcasts come out and be like, "You can't fire Shane. You can't fire Dable. You have to give him more time." And I'm like, okay, that's like their TikTok whatever to sell me to watch it. And I sit there and I watch it, and they go, but it's stupid because it's like they go, "Oh yeah, they never really picked their own quarterback. They got stuck with Daniel Jones." No, they
they
didn't.
did pay him.
They
They did pay
chose
him.
they chose to sign him. They chose to say,
Yeah,
"Oh, 15 touchdowns in a single season and took us to the playoffs." He didn't take us to the playoffs. He only threw
yeah,
15 touchdowns. He didn't throw the ball down the field. He didn't develop at all, in my opinion. And you decided to pay him
yeah,
40 million. Now you could
yeah,
have paid him for a cheaper contract, but he has some quote unquote incredible agent that knew how to get him, you know, 15 million more than I would have liked to pay him per year. But if I'm looking at what happened in 2022, I'm saying, look, Barkley ran our offense. He really did. He was the soul of our offense, and we can get into this another time. But the management that Shane had in that offseason just really had me flip 180 on him. So that's why I think he needs to go.
yeah. I mean, I just think they got backed into a corner. It's hard to not pay the quarterback after you go to the playoffs and win a game for the first time in a couple of years. But
Right, I agree.
I think everyone knew that it was kind of going to blow up in their face. And the only lucky thing is that they've They essentially structured it as a 2-year deal. So
Mm,
they got out
yeah.
after this year. There's some dead money, but it's manageable.
All
But
right.
yeah, I mean, we have
Yeah.
a lot of topics for the Giants that we'll surely cover over the
Yeah. We'll go
duration of
into
this
New York football a
podcast.
lot. So New York football
Yeah.
we'll go into. All right, that last segment because we're gonna run out of time here. We're gonna do rapid fire, Chris. Ready? So you and me are just gonna say
Yes,
our
sir.
takes on games. I'll announce the game, and then you say your take, and I'll say my take, and just go. Okay, ready? So for this is
Okay.
for Sunday games coming up. All right, 1 o'clock segment. We got Colts Patriots. Who you taking?
Taking the Colts.
All right, yeah, I'm taking the Colts too. Steelers Bengals. This is a tough one.
Taking the Bengals. I'm taking the Bengals.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, they're desperate.
see,
I'm not high on the Steelers. The Bengals are not
mm,
finishing games well, but Burrow's better
see
than
that
Russell
Bengals
Wilson.
defense. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go Steelers.
You don't have to agree
Just
with
to.
me.
I'm gonna go
Yeah,
with Steelers.
we
I'm
can
going with
keep track.
Steelers.
We'll keep
Yeah.
track
We'll
and
keep
we'll
tracking
make a
this.
fun game out of
Yeah,
it.
we'll look back on it. We'll write it down. All right. Chargers Falcons. This is an interesting one too.
Chargers for me. I'm playing
Ooh,
them.
I'm gonna go Atlanta. I'm gonna go Atlanta. I think they
Yeah,
bounce back.
Chargers are fun. All right,
I know
all right.
they're both playing great. That's the
They
thing.
are.
At least
Falcons
Atlanta
need a
fell off a
win.
little bit.
Falcons need
Yeah,
a
they need to
win.
win back. They're gonna play desperation mode. All right,
Yeah.
here we go. Seahawks Jets.
No, it's crazy because I can sit here and give you this whole spin about how Aaron Rodgers is healthy now, and I'm picking the Seahawks. I'm picking the
All right,
Seahawks.
fine. I'm taking the Seahawks as well.
Yeah.
Texans, Jaguars.
Texans. That should be an easy
Yeah,
one.
I'm taking Texans as well. I mean, we said that last week probably against the Titans, but you never
Yeah,
know.
should be,
I'm taking
but
the Texans though. They have to after what happened. I think they're going to.
not sure if Trevor's playing either yet. I don't think we know yet.
Really play Mac Jones?
I, I haven't.
Mac Jones legacy game?
I could be wrong, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure.
All right, Cardinals Vikings. That's a tough one. I feel like
Cardinals are playing good ball, but
they are.
is it in Minnesota? I guess it doesn't matter
It's
because
in
they're both
Minnesota.
domes.
It is in Minnesota. They're both domes,
Um,
but
I'll go with the Vikings.
yeah, I'm riding Vikings as well. I think they pull it off. I don't know. It's tough because I really we can go on that another time. But I really have the Niners coming back and winning the division low key. We can go into that though another time. It's a long explanation. All right, Titans
Yeah,
Commanders.
Commanders. They desperately need a win. They
Yeah,
desperately need to get to the bye week. They are
yeah,
looking tired.
yeah. I know. I don't know what's going on with Jaden Daniels lately. I mean,
I think they're just tired. I,
he's not having bad
they
games. It's just
just they look
it's slow
off. They
down.
need a break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Buccaneers Panthers at 4:05.
Okay. Should be an easy one. I'll go with the
Yeah,
Bucks.
yeah.
Should be.
Bucks. I feel like the Bucks. Are the Bucks
Panthers
on
played the
top of
Chiefs
it?
well, but
Yeah. Are the Bucks on top of it, or is it still the Falcons?
let me take a look. I think
I think it's
still.
Atlanta. I
Yeah,
think it's
Atlanta's six
Atlanta.
and five. Tampa's 5-6. So
Yeah, they need to win badly too, so they're going to go for
yeah,
that. And then right after you
yeah,
got the Rams Saints. Probably need Saints are probably close to
yeah.
that as
I'm gonna go
well.
with the Rams. Go with
Yeah,
the
I'm going to take the Rams
Rams.
as well. I think the Rams have been at least their
They're
offense has
still
been
a
on
tough
fire.
out. They're still a tough out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I think McVay is always a tough out. All right, game of the week. I believe this is Eagles Ravens.
Yeah, I mean we could do a whole pod on this game.
We
I'm
can do a
excited. I
whole
hope it lives up to the
podcast on
hype.
this game.
But you got Saquon, Derrick Henry, the resurgence of the running backs. You got two
Yep,
elite quarterbacks. Some
yep,
might say Jalen Hurts is not elite, but I think he's good.
yep.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I like Harbaugh better than
Really?
Sirianni. I like Harbaugh better than
Ooh, good
Sirianni.
take. Good take. So you can
Yeah.
take the coach. You can go for the coaching. See, we did talk about that today.
Um,
We talked about coaching
yeah.
aspects being very important. You are
The
right.
Ravens defense
But
has been
I don't know.
underwhelming in my
Hey,
opinion this
man,
year, but
listen. Once a giant, always a giant in my heart. I don't care. I'm taking the Eagles. I hate to say that as a
yeah,
Giants fan too. I never really say that stuff, but I don't know.
yeah,
I think Lamar has a phenomenal game. I think to me it's gonna be Lamar versus Saquon Barkley this game. I really
yeah.
think it is. It's just really gonna be the two of them running all over the place. It's gonna be awesome.
That should be a good game.
Uh,
I'm excited to see
yeah,
it.
I'm excited to see that one too. So we'll be talking about it later. And we got at Sunday Night Football Niners Bills.
Taking Bills, I do not like them,
Yeah,
but Bills at
yeah,
home in the snow. Brock Purdy coming off an injury.
yeah,
Bills are hot. Bills are playing
yeah.
good football. I'm gonna go with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm taking Buffalo. I mean, to me, if let's say like the Niners just got everybody back healthy and they needed a desperate win, I could see them pulling it off, but I don't see it with the amount of injuries they have, and they're just struggling lately. So I'm going
Yeah.
Buffalo as well. And then Monday night to finish it off, Cleveland versus Denver.
Yeah, I mean, does Jameis have more magic in him? I would like to see him keep playing spoiler, but I, I don't know. I think it's it might be a little foolish to go with the Browns here, so I'll take the Broncos regrettably, even though
Yeah,
I want to pick Jameis.
yeah, I love
We'll see.
Jameis.
If I have to start making up picks later in the year because I'm down, then I'm going to start betting on Jameis to get me some wins.
Yeah,
If I
I
have to
mean,
go
if
against
Jameis
you,
makes another famous speech or something like that, I'd take him. But I'm gonna go
I
Denver
love
just because I
Jameis.
think Jameis is so entertaining, bro. He's so
Yeah,
entertaining. I think, like you said before, Sean Payton is a QB guru. He's an offensive mastermind. I mean,
Knicks looks
you and
good.
Chris and I are in
The
a
defense is
dynasty
good.
league. I'm gonna flex. I took Bo Nix at the end of the first round, and
He
everybody,
did. He
a
got
couple of
clowned
my
for
boys,
it.
not Chris, but a couple of my boys were making
No,
fun of me,
I,
saying,
he got clowned for it.
I got
Ferris,
clown for it.
yeah, he took Bowers and Knicks, and his team was going to the
I took,
playoffs when everyone thought
yes,
he should
sir.
rebuild.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. Well, that's the help of Chris DeMarco too. I gave Chris Nico Collins, so we're both trying to help each other out in that league and take other guys down.
yeah,
Like you, Jake. I hope you're listening.
yeah, we'll get him on one time. Maybe you guys can reignite your beef.
He's just gonna yell at me the whole time. I wouldn't want to do that though, to be fair.
A story for another time. That wraps up our picks, though, and we got
Yes,
plenty more to
yes.
talk about. We got coming in a couple weeks, the coaching carousel, Black Mondays looming. Who else is going to get fired? Eberflus just went. We got
Yep.
fantasy football playoffs. Maybe we'll throw in some prop bets for you guys.
Heck
We're
yeah.
gonna get some guests on here, and always Jets Giants football, two most miserable franchise in the sports,
Yeah.
but we love talking about them. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then, like we said, it's a sports podcast. If hopefully things go well, and Chris and I keep a nice schedule, we'll always talk about baseball. Chris and I are massive Yankee fans. Talk about the Juan
oh
Soto
yeah,
stuff, maybe. Chris and I
yeah. I
watch a little bit
mean,
of
we'll definitely talk
basketball.
about that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna talk about a lot of things. So there's gonna be something for everybody. It's gonna be super fun. I hope everybody
yeah.
enjoys
And
watching this. Chris, I had fun with you as always, brother.
I had fun talking ball. It's always a good time. I'm looking forward to keeping this going every week and seeing where we can go from here. This is only the start.
Heck yeah, man. All right. All right, we're
All
gonna
right,
end this
everyone.
episode now. Chris, you want an outro? Go ahead, Chris.
I just want to say thank you for whoever's listening. Maybe it's not a ton of you now, but hopefully this is the start of something special because me and Aiden just love talking about sports and a bunch of our friends too. We hope to get them on and hope to build a little following here and see if we can keep this thing going.